What do people think about that lunch? What do people think about the wild rice with the lunch? Yeah. We'll have to thank Bruce and Tawny Savage for that hand harvested wild rice. And you look at that and how do you know that's good rice? I can tell you because it looks green. And that green on there, that's that freshness. And I'll just tell a little story of Bruce. Anyone ever met Bruce Savage? A few of you. So Bruce, he has people out to his plant. And so for rice, first thing is you have to go while it grows and of course, but then when you're gonna harvest it, first thing is, put your tobacco down, but then you go out and that's the whole process, knowing where to go and everything. But you harvest it, hand harvest it, 2-person canoe teams. But then you need to parch it. And John was talking a little bit earlier, then you need to finish it. And so the traditional way of finishing, after you parch it, you would maybe have a little hole lined with buckskin, put your new moccasins on. John was saying, a little bit lighter, medium-sized kid, and dance it out and then winnow it. And so that's kind of the process. And so people go to Bruce's place, and his hulling machines are these long tube. Oh, Bruce is calling me right now. He must have heard it. I'll put him on speaker here. That's funny timing. But so Bruce has these long tubes, and the rice, it goes up and then it goes down these tubes. And people ask him, Bruce, what's in your hulling machines? What's in those tubes? And he tells that story of how it's finished. And then he says, I got the 10 most beautiful native girls in there that are all dancing it out. And it's an interesting thing though, just to think of a lot of what our work is with indigenous food systems is how do we appropriately, how do we rebuild our food systems, and how do we scale that production up? And I can say for Bruce, and the other thing he says is the only 2 people who know what's really in that machine is him and his daughter, who helped them to build it. And that's kind of his proprietary trade secret. But the reason why it's green and it actually that story, I mean, it really is very much of the traditional way of doing it, that green on there, that it's just removing that hull. There's an outer kind of papery hull on that rice. And so for it to be really green like that, that's locking in that freshness. That's some of the best rice that you're ever going to find. The only thing better is maybe really tiny, small batches, but Bruce has got the best finishing setup, in my opinion. So we're going to play a short video from that John had shared with us, and then we're going to be getting going with our afternoon.
Hoke wahide aide shuno. Si reja, wako pini kateda, hikaroke hara mangara gi nambojo hide. Eskege nagura pinchina, anaga wako pini pina gire gido hachina, a wank woshka najiro janity. Yahweh ha, Yahweh ha, Yahweh ha, Yahweh, Yahweh.
When we started with the indigenous foods, we really had to do a lot of learning, and we are still learning. Only in the last really few years have I come to understand how important corn is to Ho-Chunk people and to Native people in general. I mean, corn is life.
As far as the cultural side of things goes, I feel like I was not prepared at all. It's just not something that you can learn in school. So I definitely don't think that I was prepared at all for what I was getting into when I started working here.
Since our transition to more indigenous foods and food systems, I've had the privilege of learning a lot about a lot of different foods. Some exciting things were going wild ricing, so that was just a fabulous experience. We learned about looking for different teas out in the wild, and now I can find the wintergreen anywhere. It's pretty fun.
I was very, very nervous to try to sit there and tell people how to change their diets without really understanding their culture. And I feel like I didn't have the right place to be sitting there doing that when I didn't understand the person themselves.
There's a lot of trauma. There's a lot of history of loss, and you know, everyone's looking sometimes for their way and how to get their way back.
I think transitioning to a more indigenous-based food system really gives us more authentic understanding of where people are coming from. We have learned how to make sumac tea and wintergreen tea, which is pretty easy. So those are kind of nice. I've also been involved with processing an elk, and I know recently, I was not there, but they processed a bison and froze that as well, 2 of them, in fact. The squash, we have 2 years now. The winter squash, we have cut up and dried winter squash. So we actually have dried squash that we have actually made into a soup with some pheasant and some dried corn. And it was like the best soup ever.
Although I have learned a lot about indigenous foods, it's not always just about the food. Sure, that's important. We need food to survive, but it's definitely gaining the knowledge from that, and it's connecting not only with our earth, but also with all the other knowledge keepers that are out there. And it's also spreading that information too, because a lot of people want to learn about it, but it's just where do we find the information, and kind of refocusing.
I think a lot of times nowadays I am much more of a student because I just have so much more to learn about indigenous foods, and then my background in education helps me to kind of take that new knowledge and apply it to my core principles of how do I put that into the form of providing education for other people.
So we were going to have a talk right now on the original agenda from Loretta Barrett Odin, who I consider Loretta to be the godmother of indigenous cuisine. She was doing it, she was doing it back in the 90s, Corn Dance Cafe in Santa Fe. She just came out with a cookbook, Corn Dance, and she's Emmy award winning. She had a cooking show called Seasoned with Spirit. And Loretta messaged me last week. Unfortunately, her dogs got out and she had cut her hand on a fence when she was going to try to get them. And so we have a credit for her plane ticket, and I'm going to hold Loretta to making it back here for something later on in the year. But so just a minor change on the schedule there. But now I'd like to welcome Paul Robbins, who's going to share a few words.
I'll be very brief. You know why John is successful is he looks so good on screen. I don't know how he did. Not all of us look as good on screen. My name is Paul Robbins. I'm Dean of Environmental Studies here at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. It's a huge honor to be even asked to give you the afternoon welcome for a program that's obviously going so incredibly well. I want to thank Dan Cornelius for just organizing all of this and making this possible, along with Steph Ty and others. You can tell when a program is successful, and that's when you're sitting at lunch and there's just everything is happening. And everything was happening out there at lunch for about 45 minutes. I felt it wash over me. I had a good chance, sadly, to get a list of to-dos from my lunch. There's a bunch, we have to apparently fix tenure. Um, I do want to say a few words about how special these events are. When I first took this job 12 years ago, I sent an email out to everybody, just to everybody. And it said, what do I need to do this job right? And the first email response I got back was from Patty Lowe and Barbara Bournes. And they said, get in the car. So I got in the car. And we drove the state. We stopped at 8 communities. A visit to all communities is still in front of me. There's still 1 or 2 communities I still need to visit who are undoubtedly represented in the room. So my apologies to the deferral on that. But I've spent a lot of time driving around the state, and getting me to shut up and listen was what Patty and Barbara were able to do, which, if you can talk to my wife, it's not easy. And what I learned in that trip alone, to say nothing of what I've learned in the last 12 years, is about how important this is. The ability to sit in a room and just tell the truth to each other and think about what's possible together is rare and important. And it isn't what is important for the university. It's what's important. And knowing the difference is not something they train deans to do. You got to figure that out yourself. I remember talking to Dr. Fowler on my first visit to College of Menominee Nation, where I will be tomorrow. And, you know, she said, we don't want to send you our students. Why would we send you our students if you're just going to send them right back to us? Why would we send you your students when you should be helping send students to me? That is the job of the university, it seems to me, to help to be a partner with the College of Menominee Nation so that they are receiving students doing the amazing work that they do up at CMN, not what students come to the University of Wisconsin-Madison. That was big for me. That was a big learn from Dr. Fowler. And I think I learn that every day, and I only learn it in events like these, events that are open, events that are honest, events that are focused on problem solving, and things that everybody share in common, like eating. So I want to say how much we value these kinds of events, and that the university is dedicated to supporting events like these, ongoing conversations, and the learning that they make possible for people, at least like me, so that we can make transformation and good outcomes in communities around the state. So I just want to say thank you for everybody who made this possible. I want to say that the university is here for you, although it sometimes may feel like we're absolutely impenetrable. This is an accessible people's institution. It is an institution for you and everybody in this audience and everybody that you talk to. And if they don't believe you, I can't blame them. But if we keep working, that will be a plausible truth too. So thank you all for participating. Thank you for coming. Thank you on behalf of the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Thank you, Dan Cornelius. Thank you.
As much as I appreciate the acknowledgement, I just have to just give a shout out to our team. We met pretty much every single week for, I don't know, Meg, Doug, how months. And to make something like this work, you know, it doesn't work without a team. And so, you know, we'll have a little bit more acknowledgement for the team later on, but I just want to say that this was a huge team effort, and including we got chefs that are cooking over at the feed kitchen right now. And so a huge team effort.